Wait, where did I put my lucky rabbit's foot? My name is Prudence. You can call me Prue. I run the Lucky Rabbits talk show with my partner Mason. He's been taking over the editing side. He's a little shyer, but I'm here, and we are really lucky to welcome a multi-talented reader to the Warren as our lucky rabbit today. And I'll let her introduce herself.
Hi, my name is Lindsay Myers. So I am a multi-dimensional medium. So meaning that I connect to all different dimensions on the other realms. So I'm connecting to your departed loved ones, departed pets. I'm connecting to your angels, your spirit team, master healers, aliens, everything that's all over there. I've been starting to work with more and more, more and more and more. And yeah, I just love what I do. I focus a lot on healing just because if we heal from like our past traumas and we can empower ourselves to become better versions of ourselves or like empower ourselves to live the best future going forward. And I also do help a lot with people stepping into their own intuition. I feel like we all have it and we just don't know what to do with it. So why not use it, right? It's so handy in like everyday life. And I
Absolutely.
recently just got into trance mediumship and trance healing. Still a work in progress, but the best way I can really describe the trance mediumship is when you get the soul into it goes into your body and you can actually communicate to your departed loved ones as well. So it's really, really cool.
Oh, that's actually awesome. I
Yeah.
haven't heard too much about that. I know one of the people I interviewed does hypnosis to contact your past lives, but I've never heard of
Mhm.
like trance. That's almost like old-fashioned seance, right?
Yeah.
Like you're teaching people to be able to take on the spirit and be able to host it for a
Mhm.
second.
Yeah. It's
That
been
is
really fun
cool.
so far.
So how did you find well, I guess the first thing I usually ask is about your practice, like how you built it, what it looks like, what your readings look like.
I kind of started it, got back more into it again when I had birthed my first son. I was such a negative spot. I needed to change something. I was such a negative Nelly, which is probably hard to believe now. But I told my husband, like, I know I need to take some courses. My mom knew somebody, so she introduced me to this amazing person, Joanna Hunter, and she kind of opened everything all up for me. She helped me do spiritual business, and then I started working with more James Van Prague, who is absolutely amazing. He got me through my mediumship and different little exercises, stuff like that. And now I work with Tony Stockwell because he sent me over to Tony Stockwell. That's where I got more into the trance and all that kind of stuff. And then when my second son was born, I knew I can do this as a business. I was a figure skating coach for years, 16 years. And then I ended up losing my job because of the pandemic. So I had to figure something out and everything started to open up more and more and more. So I'm like, hey, I'm going to take it seriously. I'm going to make a business out of it. Of course, I started out with small fairs. Now I'm into like the big fair setting, and it's just been amazing. And now I'm about to give birth to my third son here.
Congratulations. That's so
Thank
exciting.
you. So I don't even know what's gonna happen next for me, but that's how I kind of got started my practice. And luckily for me, I had a lot of support from my husband and my mom for like childcare, so I can go to school. And now I'm just addicted. I take courses all the time because I'm like so wanting to learn, grow, and evolve. And I
That's
hope I
the
answered
best
your
way to do
question.
it.
Sorry.
No, no, no. I love that. That's
Okay.
all really interesting. That's so great to hear.
Yeah.
It's really nice to hear that you found so many people along the way. I think that
Yeah.
building community is a huge part of all of this.
It really is.
And it's also, so I've asked one more person about this and I've heard it in person a few more times. Do you feel like becoming a mother like really helped your intuition and like how'd you like kind of connect and blossom?
It has. It really has, because I feel like, well, their soul's still connected to heaven, right? So they're able to really connect to you and help you a lot that way. I really do. It helped me kind of get my intuition back.
That's
Yeah.
amazing. That's so cool.
Even yeah, and even doing trance, I found was really interesting because some of the males that were coming through, they could feel the baby move once in a while, and they would be like, "What's going on here? What is moving inside me?"
That's so
But
cool.
then I go off and I can connect to my baby's soul, so it's actually really, really interesting. So yeah, I know it's really weird. I love it.
No, I was gonna ask that too because I've known like a lot of intuitive women who've talked about it.
Mhm.
And I've heard a lot of stories about people who have dreams where they like meet their child before they're born or like get to
Yeah.
interact with them or like really feel them. And so that's interesting to hear that you're like able to kind of connect. Obviously, I feel like everyone's connecting when they're when they're pregnant, right? But it's interesting to hear an intuitive talk about kind of meeting their child before they get to meet their child.
Yeah, I did it for this one. My first 2, not so much. I thought my second one was a girl for so long, but this one I knew. I had his name come to me. I'm like, "Oh, no, it's another boy," and turned out it is.
That's interesting. Names. I had a friend in high school
Mhm.
whose name was Morrigan, not Morgan, but Morrigan. And we all kind of like, we were like, where did your name come from? And I met her mom at one point, and her mom was like, she came to me in a dream and she told me what she wanted her name to be. And so I respected
Yeah.
it. That is so cool to hear that other people have that experience. Yeah, the last person I was talking to about this, she was like, she was talking about the fact that when her child was born, she felt like she was reborn. She was like, I stepped into a whole nother kind of level of being.
Absolutely.
That's amazing. So with the courses you do, how do you find so you kind of have people push you from one person to the next, and like is it almost like graduating from from what they can teach you?
It feels like it with James, it really definitely felt like it. Because we went to San Diego for his certification for mediumship level 2, and he ended up telling me like, "Hey, you're as far as you can go. You need to go with Tony because Tony's gonna get you to where you want to be." And of course, I'm so nervous. I'm like, "But I just got so comfortable with you, and now I have to kind of relearn everything." And it was really, really challenging. It's just because every medium and everyone connects so differently. It's so cool. And
Yes,
it
that's what
threw me
I've
off.
that's awesome. And so that's kind of how you've like, because you have a very it's not like eclectic because it's very clearly its own kind of practice that like has its common threads, but it is a very eclectic kind of series of offerings that you do. And so like pushing through that
Yeah,
and growing probably really helped each one, right? Like because then you can take it on from a place where you have the context from the last thing you've learned to apply to the new thing.
yeah.
That's awesome.
Right.
So I do want to ask you about like specifically pet mediumship. Do you work with pets or do you help people talk to pets they've lost?
A little bit of both. It wasn't something that I was really interested in because I didn't know what was coming. Because souls come as souls, right? They don't always show you because spirit communicates in so many different ways. And I felt like I was talking to my client and she's like, "No, no, no, that's my dog, like you're talking about." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." So I had no idea how to communicate with them. So I ended up having to take another course on. I'm like, "What's going on here?" So now I do connect with the living ones and I also do connect with the departed ones. Because you know, with animals, with the departed, like they're family now, and how much hurt that we carry around. And it's so nice to kind of hear from them, knowing that they always choose their own passing and little things kind of like that. I find it really helps a lot. Even though I do find it really interesting because I had so many chihuahuas or like little like dogs come through, but they'll show themselves as like pit bulls. And like I can't kind of understand why, but it's like it learned it to be that's their personality. Like they're just strong type dogs or
Yeah,
animals. Like I was like, that was so interesting, but I also connected to snakes before, snakes that have passed, living snakes. I thought that was, like, really cool, but really weird at the same time. I connected to horses, bunnies, cats, dogs, you name it. I those are the ones I'm mainly connected with so far, so I don't know what's gonna happen next.
that is so cool. The only other person I found who has worked with animals was Elaine. Elaine,
Yeah.
who does energy healing. She was talking about like helping living animals work through
Mhm.
trauma and like being able to kind of like visualize their past lives. I'm almost positive it was her. I've actually been able to do
Yeah.
enough interviews that I'm almost like losing track, but that is amazing. Snakes especially is interesting because you think of reptiles as not really having like almost being soulless, but then there is a really spiritual side to like snakes as far as symbolism and like ritual work even like in the past.
Right? Yeah.
That is so cool. So with your rabbits that you own now, do you feel like you're able to connect with them on like an even deeper level?
I can. I just can't connect to my dog. It's the only one I can't really connect to. I don't feel like our souls are really right there. But the bunnies for sure, and like my cat I did before he passed, we had a really good connection. The
Yeah.
bunny is kinda hard, I find, because mine have so much attitude. My girl has so much attitude, and my boy is just so chill, but
I always describe bunnies, for reference, we're both rabbit owners, if anyone's
yeah.
listening or watching. With bunnies, I always say they're perpetual toddlers. They will
Yeah.
hold a grudge, they will throw a fit, but at the end of the day, they're so loving. If you can just get them on their
Mhm.
happy, like, homeostasis kind of level, that's amazing. I know with my rabbits are really, I think, unappreciated pets
Mhm.
because they do have that really deep connection with you. I'll share one story, and it's when I lost my first rabbit that I had, we were really close, and
Mhm.
I took like a year to kind of get over it, and I like put out to the universe. I was like, I had an older girl rabbit, and I have room in my heart and in my life for one. If you want to send one, go ahead. And I had a friend who found a rabbit in the woods, an all black rabbit, and they tried to kind of like give her to me, and I was like, she's got to go see a vet, she's got to go to the shelter, it's just got to be, unfortunately, like, the shelter or the people who can kind of facilitate making sure she's fixed and she's got the care she needs. And it was a long time after that. She had been adopted back twice and returned. And I ended up going in to see a different rabbit at the animal shelter. And she had been there. She had been returned like a couple days before. Man, a fiery rabbit. We're talking like almost like a trauma response. Anytime anyone got near her, she would like get up and start punching and snorting. And she's a
Oh,
grunter, but
yeah.
I like really feel like I kind of got to energetically work with her, and she is just a big plump love bug now. It is that thing of like they do have a soul and an energy
Mhm.
and deserve to be healed and seen too. So I love that you work
Yeah.
with it.
It's really funny because my bunny Banks was actually the one that got me into this too. Because he always got in fights with my other rabbit at the time. He had like his ear was like ripped off, like it was horrible. But
Oh yeah.
now all my bunny decorations have like one ear, like they break for no reason, and I swear it's still him.
Oh
Um,
cute.
yeah, but he knew his worth. Like he always bit the dog. He and the cat would always swat at him, and he would always like swat back at the cat. Like he knew his worth. Everyone was so terrified of him, but he was so sweet for me and my son. But one day he got in a snowstorm, he got outside, and, I was, like, freaking out because I couldn't find him, and, he was just, like, outside underneath the car, and I'm like, "How am I gonna get him, like, out here and back in the house?" And luckily, he came back in, but, when they have that fiery and they knew their worth and they knew what they wanna stand for, and I don't know, it kinda gave me that courage to be like, "I wanna be like Banks." And,
Yes.
like, I
That's a
don't
good
know if that makes
thing.
sense, but
Absolutely. It's inspiring, right? That
yeah.
is, I always wonder how she survived outside because she was found in the winter too. And it's like domesticated rabbits, for anyone who doesn't know, domesticated rabbits are very different from wild rabbits. They don't have the
Mhm.
instincts anymore. They're different species technically now. But to see a domestic rabbit be able to do that, that is inspiring because we're all very domestic animals in a way too. And the
So
world can be pretty wild.
that's true, it can be.
That's interesting. One thing I will say,
Mhm,
so how did you find like your gifts? Were you like an intuitive child or did it come all at
mhm.
once for you?
I was very intuitive, growing up. I always had an imaginary best friend who I told my mom, like, "You know who my imaginary best friend was?" It turned out to be her mom, so it was my grandmother that I was growing up with. So when I went to school, I kinda shut it off because I lost it because like, I wanted to be normal and, I went into competitive skating, so I didn't have to, like, focus on anything, I kept my mind busy. Honestly, I got 2 back-to-back concussions from the sport. So here I am at like 22, like, hey, what's going on? Things are starting to open up more and more and more. What's my next step? And it actually wasn't until I gave birth to my first son is when I started to get everything back, and everything went so quickly. And I thought I was going crazy because, like, you don't know what's going on and stuff like that. So, yes, I used to see spirit when I was younger, but I feel like now I see it's just shadows in that now. It's mainly in my third eye, how I can connect with them. But I feel like sometimes we get our gift back, we don't always get it back the way we used to have it. We just have to, like, appreciate it, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Grandmothers are really interesting too. I know for
Mhm,
me growing up, I definitely had a feeling of like occasionally one, but always another, like my maternal
mhm,
grandmother. And yeah, when I got into college, this is really, I like I am
Yeah.
really kind of on the same page with you on that one because when I was in college, I remember I was like kind of calling to her, like relying on her a lot. And my cousins had
Mhm.
started having babies. And I remember there was like one night where I kind of got like the message of like, I got things to do. I have to go take care of these people. I got to watch over these people. If you're going to call to me kind of thing, then it's got to be important because that's a lot of work to do because they really do a lot of work for their family once they pass. And we don't think about that as
Mhm.
much, even if it's just keeping an eye out, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
One thing one thing that's interesting is head
Mhm.
injuries. First of all, did you say competitive skating like ice skating?
Yes.
Ooh, that
Mm.
is impressive. I mean, so we're up in Canada, and one of the things I was like, we have to try ice skating. We're in Ottawa, and they have that big canal where everyone ice
Yeah.
skates.
Yeah.
And we rented skates, and we got them all on and stuff. And we were about 2 minutes on the ice before I fell and hurt my knee. Not too bad,
Oh.
but it was so bad. We had them for like I think we had them for 2 hours, and, we looked at each other and we were like, because we roller skate and, like,
Mhm.
my partner roller blades, like, really well, like, backwards in the rink and stuff, and we
Mhm.
just looked at each other and we were like, "Oh, if you don't have lessons or you haven't been doing this since you were young, like, that's a very impressive skill." But, with head injuries, so you said you had 2 concussions from the skating?
Well, it's not really a funny story, but, I was doing a jump and I just landed it too far back on my blade. So I went and smashed headfirst onto the ice, and I didn't know I had it because it's like I had to go back up and do it again because that's how we're trained. We're trained to kinda keep going. I
Mhm.
started losing my vision, I was throwing up, and then I ended up having to stay in the dark for so long, and at that time, it's like, "Who am I?" Because like, my life evolved around skating and coaching it and training and everything else. And then I finally got to go back, and then I got in a car accident. Some girl rear-ended me at a red light. And with me not being fully healed, because it takes time to heal it, right? It just kind of made things so much worse. And that's where I got like really negative. I made really poor choices. Things started to open up again more and more and more. And it was horrible. But I feel like it happened for a reason. I feel like it knocked some sense into me in a way, to kind of get me back on this track. Like, you know what I mean? I don't know how to explain
Yeah,
it.
yeah, and, I will say that's another theme that I've heard. I mean, so, when you listen to, like, other people online and stuff, head injuries are one that people really, they kind of knock the mediumship back into you. One of my
Yeah.
last guests was talking about a car crash that she was in where she got hit pretty hard. Her daughter was in the car. She said that her daughter was completely fine, but that it really kind of coincided with her waking up, or having an awakening or like connecting and channeling more. And that's an interesting one. It's almost like when your life is threatened or like part of you, maybe because like your consciousness is like a little detached, like part of you is there and
Mhm.
comes back, like you bring something back with you.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with that 100%.
Well, I'm so sorry that they happened, but I'm glad that it kind of knocked sense into you. It's such a funny way to put it because like
I
that's a
know.
that's a brutal way to get it, but I'm glad that it was a positive experience in the end because things like that are really scary.
It is, and I thought I'm never gonna get my life back because that took me out of the sport, and it's like I wasn't ready to be done, but I guess the universe had different plans for me, which I ended up meeting my husband, so and then we ended up getting married, having kids, so it was all meant to be, right?
Yeah, I like have a hard time thinking about things that are bad as like meant to be, but for the most part, it's all hindsight, right? In the moment, you're like, this can't be for the best, or like this is
Yeah.
so hard. But when you look back, it's always something that you can be like, all right, maybe it was a positive, or at least I was led through here. Finding love is an interesting one that
Yeah.
coincides with people waking up to their
Mhm.
intuition a lot. That's also been a
Yeah.
theme. So also I'm very happy that you had that.
Oh, yeah, no, not in the present moment. The present moment was horrible. I was playing, like, the blame game. I was in that victim mode, like, "Why is happening to me?" I was so mad at the other person, that hit me, but at the end of the day, I had to figure out, like, "Hey, you know what? If you change the people you're hanging out with, if you change your life around, and if you point that finger back at you and realize that you have the choice to do it," that's where I kinda, like, had that breakthrough, knowing that, and then oh, yeah, my husband, I was in a very toxic relationship before I met back up with him. I met him when I was younger. I was working at McDonald's drive-through night shift, so I work all night, skate all day. Yeah, like, I was determined, and, he'd always come through the drive-through, and then I end up quitting there, and we haven't seen each other in so long, and then I got a job at Toyota where he works at, and he was planning on quitting his job and moving, and then we just kinda, like, met back up again, and I got out of a really, really bad relationship, and yeah, and he just I don't know, he helped me through a lot of things, and things moved really quickly after that.
Right? Like the click that happens.
Yeah.
Amazing. That's another common theme that's come up is what you were saying about pointing the finger back at yourself. Like the blame game is so easy to play, but it's going to help
Mhm.
people mature so much more. Like that's a great piece of advice for listeners is
Mhm.
not focusing on the toxic things that you like perceive other people doing, but like kind of just focusing on yourself because the best you can do is be better than you were, or the best revenge you can get on an ex is to do the best you can.
Absolutely, I agree with that.
And as far as reading goes, it takes so much like maturity and growth
Mhm.
and there is that period between childhood and adulthood where it almost feels like there's an intentional cutoff where they're like, okay, now you have to be a human being, you have to learn your lessons, and then we'll call you to serve later on once you've gotten through that. But it is really rare that someone doesn't have kind of it turn off at a certain point so that they can live their life.
It's challenging. It's
Yeah.
really challenging, but you I just do, like, the best that I can because I don't know, some of the lessons I went through, it's kinda like, "Why did I have to go through this?" But, knowing that, being in, like, a toxic relationship, how many people have got to help so much, and how many people and miscarriages, like, that killed me. I didn't know what this was. I thought I would never be able to have another child again, and I helped so many people through that and understanding, like, why this happens from the spirit world and everything else. Like, I think that's kind of I'm gonna start crying, sorry. Um,
Oh, don't worry.
I I think that as tough as they were in that moment, it just makes me realize, like, how much that you get to help other people by just connecting to their loved ones and having that closure and having them being more empowered in their life as well. Like, yes, it's sucky how to go through those experiences, but that's another way spirit kind of communicates as well to you through your own experiences. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, oh, sorry.
No, don't worry. I was gonna mention that is a lot of these interviews have had the common theme of really difficult things, but those really difficult things informing how we can like help people. And it is just so unfortunate that people go through like hard things or like
Mhm.
attributing it to like spirituality at the same time, but once you're able to help people, it helps you help yourself, you know? Like I'm sure that maybe the times that you got to help people who've been through those things probably kind of helped you too. Like our
Mhm.
clients are also our clients aren't readers, but our clients help us heal for sure. I'm so
Yeah.
glad that you got through all of that. Congratulations. It sounds
Oh,
like that took a lot of strength and
mhm.
yeah, you really did kind of embody the Binky, right? That was his
Yeah.
binks or
Yeah. Thanks. Yeah.
yeah,
Absolutely.
that's awesome because you
Uh,
do have that very like gentle, like rabbit kind of energy and it sounds like you
mhm.
survived the wild, really.
I love that. I never thought of it that way.
Oh, that's so inspiring. You got me a little emotional
Oh.
too. Um, yeah, God bless.
Mhm.
Literally, God
Mhm.
bless. That's so cool. And so developing your practice, that must have been pretty hard, right? Because if you had a very down to earth kind of mentality working like
Mhm.
to begin with, fast food is really hard to work, third
Mhm.
shift is really hard to work, and sports really keep you grounded and like in your body. So coming out of that and building did you kind of have like, were you judging yourself at first when you started your business?
Oh my gosh, yes. I was in the closet. And
Yep.
I'm like, I can't tell people I talk to dead people. Like, I can't tell people that. People are gonna think I'm crazy. Now
Yep.
I don't care. But when I first started and I really didn't like my job. And I told my husband, like, I'm gonna quit my job and I'm going to stay at home with my kids and I'm hoping to keep doing readings and want to change. I don't know, I just needed a change, I think. And I feel like this is where I needed to be. And he was like, okay.
Blessed that you had someone
But
supportive. That's it.
yeah.
Yeah. I don't think I could do any of this without. I couldn't even be up here without my partner. He's done so much, and
Mhm.
every time I hear him say that, like, he believes in me, I'm like, oh my God, thank you.
Right?
Like,
Yeah.
it's so easy to miss the forest for the tree, or not see. I'm not quite sure that saying, but inside of ourselves, to see
Yeah.
of ourselves and miss like the little details. And it takes somebody else to really look at you and appreciate you before you can kind of break away from everything, because there's just so much context in our lives.
He was a little skeptic at first, but until I brought someone through and it's like, okay, yep, I get it. You're the real deal.
Good though. Like, some of my favorite people are skeptics who keep an open mind just enough to be impressed or swayed. And especially because you need those sounding boards in life. Like, if he stays a little skeptical, then you know that he'll keep you from like going off the rails, because sometimes with all of this, it is easy to get carried away and lose track of like what's real. And so having someone who's
Mhm.
grounded.
Yeah, for sure. And my kids help keep me grounded because I have a 3-year-old and a 2-year-old. And it's so funny. I go to my 3-year-old all the time because he'll tell me something that I don't know from like his past lives. He's starting to past lives and who he's talking to. I'm like, who are you talking to? And he'll be like, no, mom, you're not supposed to know that yet. And I'm like, oh, come on, buddy. I just want to know.
That is
Like
amazing.
people, like,
I try not to pry too much into other people's family, because you never know what they want to talk about. But I'm always interested in hearing if an intuitive's child has the same thing, because
mm,
there is a lot of this that whether it's like from an event or from experiences, there is kind of a hereditary aspect to all of this. Like,
yeah.
before like your older generations and your younger generations, is there that common
Mm.
thread of everyone kind of having it?
Yeah. Uh, like in my family, you mean?
Yes,
Oh,
definitely.
okay, yeah. My mom for sure I knew, and, like, my grandmother I never met, I only met her in spirit. She was I believe my mom's side of the family really is. My dad, I don't know anything about my dad's side of the family, so I can't really say much there. But yeah, it kinda goes through generations, and kids, like, we're all born with it. We just tend to lose it somewhere between the ages of 9 or when we start school because we're always like, "Hey, you have to learn this way. You have to be like this," and I feel like it for me personally, it felt like I couldn't be myself.
Yeah. Well, and there's that layer of protection too, right? Like, when you're in school, your past loved ones would want you to just have a normal school experience and not be the weird kid, or not be like a party trick. And
Yeah.
like your grandma's always going to be like, get good grades,
Yeah.
focus on school, focus on your sports and stuff like that. So it's interesting.
Yeah.
9 is the age that the last person who had kids was talking about, kind
Really?
of seeing like a big difference or a shift in consciousness. I
Yeah.
don't know if she was talking about. Oh no, yeah, exactly, with the same thing you're saying, is just like that's the age that kind of is noticed. I don't think her kids were that old
Oh,
either, but yeah, 8 or 9 seems to be the age that we snap into consciousness on like a grounded earthly level. And then,
mhm.
was your age when you kind of had your gifts come back, was it like 28-ish?
Yeah, yeah, no, yeah, it was 28 when I had him. Yeah, it was 28. Yeah.
That's so interesting. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
in astrology, I don't know if you know this, but that's when Saturn returns to the place in your birth chart. And that's when they call it your Saturn return. And so at your Saturn return in astrology, 30 years is a cycle of completion. And so it's almost like, in the tarot cards, the card the world, it's when we step into our next phase, when we step out of our childhood and into our adulthood. And a lot of
Mm.
people yeah, a lot of people will have their awakening right around 28. So that's really interesting. That's when I started kind of Actually, I think that's when I started gearing into my business too, was around my 28th
Yeah.
birthday. I'm just hit 30 and it's all still it's
Mhm.
familiar from growing up and kind of feeling it forever, but it's also all just very new and more matured and kind of grounded.
Yeah.
So from 8 to 30 is kind of yeah. There's like a 20-year cycle where they shut it off for us.
That is so cool.
Yeah, I love hearing everyone's similar experiences because we come to different practices and we come from different
Mhm.
memories and different contexts, but so many of us have similar experiences on like some level, and that's interviewing people has been really amazing for discovering that because I think a lot of people don't give us credit to like talk about our stories, but it's really worth it. It's really worth it to hear from people. Yeah, wild. Do you have any other like stories or like moments where you had like really spiritual experiences that you'd like to share?
Actually, I had something really cool that happened, November 11th, actually, last year. I had permission to share this story, just so everyone knows. So this person that my mom knew, they used to work together, I think, but her son has passed, and they chose to do the maid, for him, and he was just kind of holding on. He didn't have, he's like, he kept telling me like he didn't have any like life support left in him. He didn't want to live his life this way anymore. And I was connecting to him when he was alive, and then I kinda gave him that permission or that relieving that guilt, what's gonna happen next for him in the afterlife, because he's already living in both realms, right?
Mhm.
So I actually got to work with him before he passed, and then when he passed, I actually got to help him cross over, and I've never done that before to cross over. And now he's like my main guy here, like, he's here with me right now too, and helping me push myself and learning more about the afterlife. He's like the only person that I got to really know more about the afterlife with other than, like, my spirit guide and all of that. So it's actually really interesting, yeah. So
That's
he's
cool.
here.
I always wonder, and this is a tough one to speak on too. I always wonder
Mhm,
how much of like things like when people lose themselves to like a stroke or dementia, how much of that is
mhm.
kind of slipping on into the other side because you do see that they're missing pieces of themselves, and it's almost like that head injury thing we were talking about where like part of you can go, part of you can pass on without all of you. So that's a really interesting thing to hear. That
Yeah,
must have been that must have been a really heavy reading to give though.
it was. Luckily, they said just keep having him help you. You can share the stories, anything you want with him, because I helped him out, like, a lot, which feels, like, really, really good. Knowing that they're not gone. And I kept telling her, like, I keep seeing a penny, but then I kept seeing a cross, but, like, you can't always put the pieces together, right? I'm like,
Mm.
but he's, like, showing me this. So she ended up posting a picture and said, look, she asked for a sign. It was a penny, but there's like a cross like carved in that penny. And I'm like, of course, do we say things like this? Like, oh, I hope this comes true. Like, I don't even know if this is gonna make sense, but it
Yeah,
does.
you have to say the really crazy things that feel like because that's what's going to validate for people.
Yeah.
It's and there is that piece. A lot of mediums, and I always say like a medium is like a unicorn in the community. So congratulations that you're doing that. Like, right? Like so many people are psychics or an intuitive or like know their cards or like know how to read the stars. But to be able to connect to the other side, it takes a really special gift, really, truly.
It I find it's hard because you see it all. Like, you go and that's the hardest part, the good. It's not every time you're gonna have someone who has a peaceful passing. You're gonna have, like, the people who take their own lives. You're gonna have, like, the murders. You're gonna have, like, all that stuff, and it really plays a lot in your mind. Also, when you see kids who, like, drown or, like, they pass away so young, and it's so hard not to take that with you.
Yeah, and also, unfortunately, those are the people who are going to be seeking out a medium, right? So almost
Yeah.
always the people that you're going to be connecting with are people who had like traumatic losses or really the people who need to validate things for their loved ones. Because I know for some
Mhm.
people, they'll go to a medium and they'll ask for questions about someone's death, and the person will literally be like, I can't talk to you about that. I know
Mm.
that my mom has been on a journey. I actually don't know how much of this I should share, but she's been on a journey to try to get answers about my grandmother's death, because it
Mm.
wasn't a natural passing, it was at the hands of someone else. Um,
Yeah.
there's questions there, but she never gets answers. No matter who she goes to for a medium, they'll say, I can't tell you, I can't connect.
Yeah.
And it is that thing of, I don't know, for me, this sounds wild, but I once was like very frustrated, kind of like with her spirit. I was like, you have to tell her at some point. Like you have to talk to her at some point. And I got kind of this message of, um, my grandfather had passed, and it was someone she was with. And I kind of got this message of, I'm not talking about that. I'm back with the man I love. That's
Mm.
not who I'm going to focus on, and neither should she.
Mm.
Um, and it was like a foot down moment of, no, I'm not going back there, and no one should think about that. Just know that I'm with my husband. Just know that I'm back with your grandfather. Um, I tried to tell her that a few times, but for the most part, our family and the people we're closest are the people that we can't really convey things to until, right, you get it. Um,
Exactly. Yeah.
and until we went to a medium, and the medium looked at me and she was like, well, you're doing this really. And she had read for my mom, who had asked her, and she looked at me and she said, oh, but you already know. And I was like, I guess if you say so, then it must have been true. You know what I mean? Like that next step of
Yeah.
validation, which is
Mhm.
another thing I've noticed a lot of people need, is we need each other to validate what we feel like we're feeling or seeing. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Do you feel like you
Yeah.
had to seek that out? Like the people in your life closest to you were like, well, maybe it's mental health, honey, but then you had to find other people in the intuitive community to back things up.
Yeah, I did have to do that quite often, 'cause
Yeah.
it's just yeah, people didn't believe in me, and now knowing it doesn't matter because this is my life or whatever, but, at that time it's actually really interesting you brought that up because I'm writing a book right now, um, about my life. So I'm like the lightness to dark, no, darkness to lightness. So everything that I've been through, and I just kind of brought up about my family here and how no one really believes in this stuff, or
Yep.
I have some people that don't believe in it, and I have people that are all for it. Like it's so weird. And I just recently cut out a lot of friends in my life. I have cut out so many people in my life, and it's just amazing how different you feel, like, you know what I mean? And even to
Absolutely.
this day, like, you have to go to ask for validation for things like, "Hey, this is what I'm getting from my spirit guide, like, are you connecting kinda like the same thing or not?" So it
Yeah.
yeah, it's really useful.
And I noticed too, if you come from an intuitive family, so many of
Mhm.
them were told to stifle things or have forced
Mhm.
themselves to not recognize things, that it's really hard to get that validation from them, because
Mhm.
they don't want you to do the same thing, but they want to protect you the way they've been protecting
Right.
themselves. And so much of that is shutting things off, which can be like a real, like that sometimes is when the mental health stuff really comes in, is if you try to shut off something that, when you embrace it, you just open up and you feel so much happier.
Yeah, absolutely.
So proud of you for making it through that step, because that step's one of the big ones. That is so cool.
You get
That
told that
is,
all the time.
yeah, that is so cool, actually. Especially to hear from somebody else who has like the lineage of it down the line. So with
Mhm.
your grandmother's spirit, do you feel like she maybe came through as a child to help you kind of hone those gifts, or was it more just like a protective nurturing thing? I mean, I know that that one's really personal, but just because I have similar experience, I'm really wondering.
Wow. Hey, I wrote a book about my life, or I'm in the process of it. So yeah, I feel like she was there to kind of really protect me in a way. Because I had kind of a lot of toxic family members around me at that time when I was growing up. I feel like she was always there protecting me, and guiding me. But then as soon as I hit like 10 years old, I couldn't connect with her anymore. But then I also had a lot of family members who just said, "Hey, no, it's your imaginary friend Emily," and it made me so mad because I'm like, "No, you know that I'm talking to your mom." Like, you know what I mean? But
Absolutely.
yeah, and it's just like you get made fun of all the time.
Yeah, and especially when you're trying to tell people, so those early years when you're trying to talk to like your
Mhm.
family about a family member, did you ever meet her physically or was it always like a
No.
spirit relationship?
Yeah,
Exactly.
she died when my mom was 16, so there's no way I would know any of this stuff.
Yep. And at the same time, a lot of them probably were still grieving and unable to accept that like a child could help them with that grief. So I see
Yeah.
that for sure. I know on my dad's side, they're very Catholic. And for the most part,
Mhm.
I would never tell them that I feel like I'm able to kind of connect to my grandparents because I think for them, it's
Mhm.
almost like in their eyes, it's almost insulting because they're like, well, that's someone that I loved that I lost. How dare you use them to,
Yeah.
but it isn't like a thing of using them, you know? It's not like I'm
Mhm.
trying to like convince everyone I'm special. Like you must understand too, like it's not like we're trying to tell people that we're Jesus Christ incarnate. We're just sharing experiences. And if you can't share them, then maybe that's like, I don't know. I wonder so much how much help they could be getting if they were more open to things. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. It's not funny, but my someone I know is having dementia and her husband keeps coming to me saying like, "Hey, I'm trying to take her with me, but she doesn't know where she's going to go. She's blaming everyone because of the Catholics. She doesn't know what's going to happen to her." And I'm like, It's okay. Like she just needs to like cross over, like she'll be fine." But yeah, it's kind of interesting with different religions and saying like, "Oh, well, yeah, you can't say this. Like this is my husband. Like I can't tell her like, "Hey, he's waiting for you." Like, you know what I mean? But
yeah.
then she got, like, really defensive about it, and we're evil, but it's like, how is it evil? We're doing the same thing, what like, God or whatever universe, whatever you wanna believe in, gives us
Mm,
these gifts, like, you know?
yeah.
And we're just
And the
helping other people. We're not doing it to be mean or negative or anything.
Oh, 1 second. I think I lost connection with I understand what you're saying. Yeah,
Oh,
like we're
oh,
not
okay,
trying to be mean or no, don't worry. I think you're back, right?
okay. Spirit tends to do that too all the time, so it wouldn't surprise me.
Yes, technological
Okay.
stuff. I had one night I was interviewing someone, and anytime she kind of her someone she lost who sticks with her comes up, the lights flicker. And I
Mhm.
haven't had that with anyone else. That's really interesting that it was in the middle
Mhm.
of that story though. But it's a really
Yeah.
common theme
Mhm.
that there's like a common thread from religion, and that common thread is really just like love and truth. Um, and bringing
Mhm.
that to people who are like on one severe side is like you have to really be like, I'm not trying to be mean.
Right. And it's like, I'm still religious somewhat, and, like, it doesn't mean that you know what I mean? I don't know how to explain it. You can still have your religion, you can still have your spirituality. It's the same thing in my eyes.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing I always or like has been like a recurring theme is just like heaven is real and God is love. Like that love
Mhm.
energy is really like what we're all returning to. And it's a
Mhm.
tough one too because like that is a comforting thing as far as like we leave what hurts behind. Like
Mhm.
there's so much of our body, so much of what our body is going through, our spirit can break away from. And with mediumship, that's a really common theme, but being afraid of death because of what you've been taught for religion is real. It's really
It
real.
is. I didn't know that until recently.
Yeah. I know one of my other guests was talking about growing up. She was grew up with religious trauma, just like moral injury, kind of.
Mhm.
Because you're told so much that what you're feeling is a sin, and like
Mhm.
that that sin is what's going to bring you to hell. But like I don't know, I personally have a hard time believing in like the hell aspect of things because I don't know, I feel like so much of what we suffer with is from like the demands or the feelings of our body, right? Like
Yeah.
shame. I guess shame and guilt is what I
Same
mean.
as guilt, yeah. I don't know, I always figured that Earth is kind of the hell's place on Earth here. 'Cause if
Yes.
you're ever learning your lessons, like, that's how they taught me on the other side. It's like, "No, it's Earth, that's hell." Like, that's the way it is. We all
Yeah.
cross over.
And that's how the soul grows. So how do you
Mhm,
feel about like reincarnation? I know you mentioned past lives before, but how do
mhm.
you how do you like reconcile or like think about that?
It is so very real. Um, I actually took a Akashic Records course, my very first course I took, and I'm terrified of frogs, like, oh, I used to be terrified of frogs. And then we went into the Akashic Records, and because we were students, we were practicing each other, we found out I was kinda a witch in a past lifetime, and they, like, throw frogs at you, and I'm like, "This is can't be real, like, this isn't gonna help, right?" And now I'm not really afraid of them. I'm not a fan of them by any means, but I'm not really afraid of them anymore. And even, like, for other people that we carry on a lot of our soul from past lifetimes to this lifetime until we fully heal from it. Once we're able to heal from it, it's done, and you get to start all over in the next lifetime.
Yeah.
Until you master that unconditional love, then you go into, like, in animals or you go into spirit guides, and it's really fascinating, but I do really believe in that.
I've always
100%.
I've always said that I really hope my next life is as a tree in a forest.
Right?
Not like a tree that gets
Right?
cut down, but a tree in a forest. That feels like nirvana to me, to be able to just grow and be part of everything and connected. Yeah, in astrology too, there's the north node and the south node. And when you look at them, they're supposed to be like your karma and your dharma, where you're from and where you're moving towards. And that is so like in theory, right? I think that that's more Vedic astrology, like Eastern astrology. But the idea is
Okay.
that you're born into the world with a trauma and you have to move out of that trauma in order to like continue the progression.
Yeah.
So when you say the frog thing, did you say that they threw frogs at witches?
Yeah, they threw frogs at witches. And that's why I was, like, so terrified of them, and I drowned in one past lifetime, which is why I don't like water, which I think that's, like, a really common one, like, a lot of people are so scared of, like, deep waters.
Yep.
Yeah.
Also, heights is
Oh,
mine.
yeah, hi.
I don't know what it is about heights. I wonder, like, they say that there's also like genetic memory, like things that have
Mhm.
put your relatives in danger. You carry on as like a memory in your DNA. But I always wonder, like, what was it about heights? Was it like an ancestor? Was it like a past
Mhm.
life where I died in a height? I mean, it's always something that's interesting about all of this is it's good food for thought because you might never get the answers concretely. Well, will never get the answers concretely. Um, but it is just like it's an interesting way, even if thinking about it helps you move through those fears. It's just interesting to think about. I never knew that about frogs and witches. That's a really interesting thing.
Yeah, I didn't know either.
And, like, that's interesting how those persecution techniques kind of turn into the propaganda used against them, right? Like, it was them using frogs, it wasn't witches turning people into frogs.
Right, yeah. So,
That's crazy.
that's how they got our secrets out of us, apparently, so I'm like, "Okay, that does make sense," you know?
Yeah, the torture that
Mhm,
witches went through in the past is really insane. I hope that we're moving away from
mhm,
that too. And so I'm from
mhm,
America, and the Christian
mhm,
nationalist movement is really, really geared against spirituality. I know that
mhm.
there are some people who've like come out and just been like, these girls who worship rocks should be burned. And it's like, oh, whoa, 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 whoa,
Really?
whoa. Yes, no, literal talk about like stuff like that and like forcing Christianity on people. And it's like, are we moving backwards? Are we going to get to that enlightenment point if we
Mhm,
move backwards again? I know, I don't think it's the same up here. We've been up here and it feels much more mellow and spiritual. The reason we're up here is because apparently it's being I don't know. I heard in a couple sources that there's like a renaissance of readings. Like Canadians are getting to like a point of enlightenment, and those fairs really kind of make me feel like that. I mean, I think it was like
Mhm.
18 to 15 people I met. And they were all so sweet, all did different things. And that you don't really see that down there other than, well, I mean, even in Salem, you don't really see that. And I feel like we're moving
Mhm.
backwards.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and there's also practices down there that like practitioners are starting to get really gatekeepy. Like the
Oh, really?
Yeah, like it's almost it's not like pretend or anything like that, but it's we're definitely hitting an entangled point down there that I feel like I'm really honored to have come up here and like met all of you guys because it's like a breath of fresh air.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. So as far as like this is an interesting one, but do you feel like do you still skate? Obviously not while you're pregnant, but
Honestly, no. I took my son skating a while back when he was little, but that was it. I
yeah,
miss it. I do wanna get back into it, but yeah, no, I kinda love my life where I am now, and I
also
don't
for
really miss
safety
it.
reasons, right? Once you've had a concussion, like you're more apt to have a worse concussion after.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a tough one though, like losing something that you felt like connected you, because that's like one of those things that really connects you to nature. I know,
Like, the music, the movement, it was how I got to express myself.
yeah, which is a spiritual expression in its own way.
Yeah.
Any kind of physical activity, especially just like, I don't know, I feel like water has like a very intuitive property and like you are interacting with water when you're skating. I know we were skating on that river and I was like, it's so cool to think that there's like water flowing underneath
It
you and
is.
it's not swimming, but you're interacting with the water. So it's interesting that you were still connected to like that intuitive connection to water in a way.
Like, I always wondered, like, what it would be like to go back once in a while, but, like, I don't think I can do that at 32 and just kinda, like, get everything back into shape again. I don't think it's gonna happen, but
Yeah, also risky, right? Like
yeah.
if I ever ice skated again, it would be with an instructor in an
Mhm.
arena. Like I kind of feel silly that we just went straight to the river. I also feel silly because we drive by that river a lot, and I haven't seen anybody clumsy like I was.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like I feel like it's in the Canadian blood.
Well, it makes me feel better. I always, like I would do, like, triple jumps all the time, but then I would always do, like, triple my toe pick. Like, my toe picks were my worst enemies. You
What
just be
is
skating there and go, "Boop."
is that? So what is that? Like being on your toes, or
Yeah,
I
like,
don't
you'll
know
just,
any
like, skating
terms.
or yeah, like, if you're, like, skating or gliding, like, yes, we did big jumps and everything else like that, but we're just skating and I'll just trip over my toe pick. Like, I can't tell you how many times I've fallen on my face from that.
Oh, the is the toe
So
pick the
oh, sorry,
front of the
yeah,
skate?
the front of the
Oh,
skate, sorry, yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, I really shouldn't have skated when I didn't
Well,
even know things like that.
it's all good, it happens to the best of us.
It's also it's just like if you're in Canada, you gotta have some Timmy Hortons and you gotta go ice
Right?
skating.
Exactly.
I'm a vegetarian, so I couldn't try poutine, but my partner definitely did.
No, you're missing out.
I
Uh,
know. I'm sure that there's like vegetarian gravy
yeah.
ones too, but maybe I'll do that before I
Mm.
leave. We're only here for a few more days, but I feel like we like went out of our way to get the experience for better
Yeah.
or worse. Um, so do you have, this is one of the last questions, but do you have any advice for people who are listening?
Focus on you. Don't care what people say about you. If they let them judge you, if they want to judge you, let them do the same decisions they want to make. Because at the end of the day, you can't control that. Let go of things that you can't control of in life and focus on the things that you can control. Even though there's so many things that could be happening in your life right now, remembering that the storms are always going to pass. They're not here to stay forever. And I'm kind of at this new thing in my life right now. My mantra this year is why not? Why not take new opportunities? Why not? I don't know. Why not? Whatever comes out of
Yeah.
this interview, like, why not? take different opportunities and embrace that. But I feel like we really need to focus on ourselves and let go of the things that are no longer serving us a purpose. That's like a hard one. Healing ourselves, knowing that we need to forgive ourselves. We don't deserve to live life with any shame, blame, guilt, resentment, fear, anxiety, anything like that. So I
Yeah,
feel like you want to keep pushing forward and make yourself happy. And as long as you're happy with yourself, then that's all that matters.
and you're gonna be more apt to actively participate in life, right? If you let yourself
Exactly.
if you let yourself feel the power to participate, then you're gonna enjoy things more and you're gonna be able to shape your life more. Yeah, for sure. I think that's a great piece of advice, especially for Americans right now, right? Is like everything is like really crazy down there and holding on to your personal power is really gonna be a huge thing in the next however
Yeah.
long dealing with that.
Yeah.
I
Just
love
don't
to
give away your power to anybody.
Yes, that's a great one. Yeah. Oh, honestly, thank you. That's a different piece of advice, which is like kind of what we were talking about with readers. Everyone's got
Mhm.
such a different flavor to things, and I always think that I've said this a few times, but to anyone listening who likes getting a reading or is still too scared to get a reading,
Mhm.
make sure that you're going to someone who maybe seems like a different energy or go to multiple people because you're never going to get the same experience and you'll always get a good experience where nobody's here to hurt you. Well, you'll know if it's a bad one, you know?
No, no, right? Yeah.
I genuinely think there are some people who kind of like abuse spirituality and like push their ego or agendas, but I also feel like those people, you can smell them out ahead of time. Go to different people who have different views and different feelings, but definitely always trust your gut on who you're talking to.
Mhm. And right now there's someone impostering me, so it's really hard because people are like, "Why are you asking me for readings?" Like, "No, that's not me. That is someone else, like, I would never reach out to you for a reading. You have to come to me." And
Yeah.
you also like, "Why am I asking people for money?" I'm like, "I don't do that."
Oh no. Do you have like a bot account or like a fake person on Instagram or something?
I have a couple on I have one on TikTok and a couple on Instagram and one on Facebook. And it's
Oh,
just peop I know it's so annoying to come on all the time, like, "No, it's not me. This is don't get scammed." And that's really hard, I find, in this world too, right? It's like, you don't wanna get scammed.
yeah, absolutely. And these bot accounts, anyone, again, talking to the
Mhm.
audience, like anybody, if somebody's reaching out to you offering a reading, back
Yeah.
up.
Exactly.
Every single one of us who's in this for the right reason is going to, I mean, we don't even really, for the most part, there's like a code of ethics that's like spoken
Mhm.
between us and not really spoken to the public, but like non-consensual readings are a huge part of it. And granted, like there's
Mhm.
TV shows like Long Island Medium, she can do what she does, and for the most part, reality TV is never real, but who knows how any of that goes. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Non-consensual readings are not something that a good reader is going to do, and especially if you're online, it's so tough because you have to, like, pay to be verified now, so it's even, like I don't even
Mhm.
really want a blue check mark next to my name, and it would suck if someone popped up with a blue check mark next to my name or something, you know?
Yeah.
But the bot accounts are real. Like, do you get messages in your DMs being like, "Would you like to be featured on our page?"
Yes, all the time.
I always get them, and I'm like, "You guys, like, no, nobody is." I don't know. Nobody needs all of the bot activity. It's really clearly fake. It's really, like, dangerous. Like, Instagram all the time will
Mhm.
be like, These accounts are probably scam," and I'm like, "Well, at least they're identifying it, but how many of them are they missing?"
Exactly.
Yeah, and there's always people oh my god, that's a tough one. We live in an age where everything could be fake, and that's so scary. Are they, like, using AI to do your face or anything, or is it at least
I don't know, they're just messaging a lot of my followers.
yeah,
So, I
taking
mean,
your
like
content?
on the bright side, it's like, "Yay, I made it. People wanna be like me," but it's still not a good thing, right? So, I don't know, I always find the positives in everything, but, it is really scary, and I keep messaging them, and I always get all these messages, I'm like, "I'm so sorry, like, I can't really do anything about it."
Yeah. Well, and this is we don't get a lot of viewers, but if you are a viewer who is getting a message or like wants to
Mhm.
follow social media, make sure you verify. And if you do get those messages, no, it's not Lindsay.
Exactly, and
Yeah,
that's the
you
second part, it's attached to my name, like,
oh, yeah.
yeah.
And you know that so many of them are just like like companies or like whatever outside of Canada, probably. That's so funny. I was gonna say outside of the US, but yeah, outside of North America, really. We hope, right? And for the most part, you can tell they'll do spelling mistakes.
Yeah.
They're like definite. I hope for the most part that we like as a society start recognizing what's fake, right? Like sometimes you get hate
Mhm.
comments too, and you have to click on it. They have 0 posts, 0 followers. Just block it. Don't interact with it. It's a fake account. People can pay to have a million fake accounts attack you, and I don't know. We're really living in like an age where we're gonna have to address the AI kind of situation that we're in.
Yeah.
Sorry for that, but again,
Mhm.
also, at least you made it. At least they
That's
won.
right. That's how I look at it.
Oh, that's a bummer,
Mhm.
but so for anyone listening or watching, we're kind of hitting time. How can people find you, support you? What are your real social medias, and how can they book a reading?
Okay, so you can also book a reading at lindsayslovinglight.ca or lindsayslovinglight.com. You can also email me. There's more availability if you email me. Just because of the baby coming and everything else, I kind of blocked off on the website, and I'm still working
Oh,
on the website too. It's a lot,
yep.
but I am mostly on Facebook, Lindsay Loving Light. I am on Instagram and TikTok. I'm just not as active as I should be on there. I'll be honest, but
Well,
that is
if
somewhere else you can find me.
yeah. And do you do like virtual readings or is it like mostly the fairs and in person?
So I do readings all over the world. So I do a lot of virtual readings. I do have people coming into my home and my office here. And with fairs, I don't know where my life is going to take me. I don't know what's going to be like with 3 kids, if I'm going to go back. My ultimate dream is doing platform mediumship. Like that's my goal, what I want to do. And I want to help other people who are learning about their intuition here and kind of have a safe spot for them to practice, I guess you can say, for people who do want to step into the fairs or anything kind of like that. And I just want to kind of go into motivational speaking too. Like, there's so much stuff I want to do, so I don't know what life's gonna hold for me, and I just don't care right now. I'm just gonna let it flow.
Have you thought about like online courses? Because it sounds like if you've taken so many
Yeah.
courses and like you understand things, like online courses might be a good way to help people reach people and still have time for your family because you're gonna have to
Mhm.
not that I know,
No,
but it's like with the book and things, moving kind of towards things that people can get access to you and your information while you're busy is probably going to be a big one. Have you thought about teaching courses at all?
a lot of people actually have asked for that, and I have started one. It's just I don't have that confidence. But then when I get noticing in my readings, because we do everything in like a reading, and I do a lot of mentoring as well. But to me, I'm just like, I'm not good enough yet. Like I still have those issues myself. I don't want to say issues, but like that self-doubt, right? Myself. Um,
Yeah.
because you always think that you're not good enough, but yet as a reader, I'm like, I'm confident, like I know what I'm doing. It's just I don't know how to explain it. It's a weird kind of transition. And I know a lot what I'm doing, so I have thought about it and I have one started. It's just procrastination and finding time, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So, do you have the title of your book already?
Yeah, so it's from darkness to lightness. Because I live such a I don't want to say like a dark life, but I had a lot of struggles and it's been really hard. A lot of healing has gone into this book. And I kept thinking like I was hoping to have it done by now, but I had to wait till my baby is born. So I guess we'll see what happens in March.
Have you
And
heard of like Substack or like the new? It's an ironic title, but there's a new social media called Medium, and it's for writing. You could probably do like snippets of chapters or things like that in the meantime.
oh,
Um,
really?
Yeah, I would suggest like blogging. This I'm I don't normally do this where I'm like suggesting things, but I bet you do really well with like recording an online course or
Mhm.
publishing some writing because also everybody loves hearing from like mothers about the motherhood journey, like mom
Mhm.
blogging. And then that's like an ethical way, right? Like not like recording your children, putting it on social media, but like
Exactly.
your experience as a mom and
Mhm.
yeah, I would I think it's really cool that you're doing
Mhm.
writing. I would big support from me for that.
No, that's awesome. See, and that's why we help each other out. See, I never even knew any of that really existed. So that's awesome.
Yeah, so Substack, Medium are the only 2 I know. I know that I've been meaning to move towards them, but I'm not sure really what I would write, but it sounds like you have
Mhm.
things to write, and also it might help with kind of promoting the book if people can get, like, a
Yeah.
little like, the first paragraph of a chapter or something. However you end up working it out,
Yeah.
that's cool. I love that. Writing a book is hard.
It is.
Writing a book
It's
about your life is, like, also emotionally hard.
it is so hard. I'm like, oh, I don't want to put myself out there, but there's so many people that probably gone through the same thing, right? And as you probably know, spiritual work, people think their life is perfect, but it's not.
I know, they think we have all the answers, and I'm like,
Mhm.
"I wish I did." I've been, like, really trying to, like I don't know, I was just thinking about this. I've been having really vivid dreams, and, like,
Mhm.
I've been reading a lot for myself and trying to get answers, and the thing is, like well, there's also the trope of, like, a reader can't read for themselves, but, like,
Yeah.
I if you're very spiritually attuned, you know that you don't get all the answers. No one's even, like, the other side or your guides, like, they're gonna make you figure it out for yourself, so it's
Absolutely.
it's a good thing to have books like that and tools so that you can share with people. Honestly, again, like, congratulations on making it to where you are. I'm so proud of you. I don't know you, but I'm so
Oh,
proud of you.
thank you.
Absolutely. So I suppose that's it. I'm gonna stop the recording. We can talk for a second. But thank you for coming on. This is so awesome.
Well, thank you for having me.
For sure. This is like holding space for people. It was like a little idea at first, and it has just been so enlightening. And I hope people really enjoy this or like use it as a tool or it finds the right
Yeah,
people. You never know with this stuff. It might just kind of sit online and get 4 or 5 views, but if you're one of those 4 or 5 people, I hope it helped.
exactly.